Good afternoon, everyone. Absolute pleasure to be here today, and really privileged and blessed that we're all still safe, all of us here, and we're able to physically make it back to the events once again. And of course, it's most unfortunate what's happening in the other part of the world, Russia, Ukraine, etc. And it's pretty appalling that in this day and age, that's the kind of dynamic that we are going through. But just wanted to acknowledge that and then jump into what I wanted to share with you all over the next 45 minutes to 1 hour. It's interesting. Technology is phenomenal. I have placed an order on Uber Eats, and my watch is now nonstop buzzing. Anyway, so I thought I kept everything on silent, and here's what happens. So on a serious note, firstly, I have been in the field of marketing now for about 36 years. And I have seen it evolve across different parts of the world, across different industries. And when I sit back and look at the changing trends, it's absolutely fascinating. And when I zoom back further and see and go back all the way to the Roman times and Pompeii and so on, there is evidence of marketing even there. And it's fascinating, not just any what you call random marketing, but they had concepts 2,000 years back of targeting, of extolling the virtues of your audiences, and it was there in form of paintings and posters in the ruins of Pompeii, which is phenomenal, right? And logos were there since about 600 AD, and the first known logo is of that of a rabbit, which is holding a needle made from the finest steel, so apparently you can stitch things in a very delicate way. But all through the history, marketing has predominantly been focused on products. The product is the hero, and if you have a great product that's well packaged, priced reasonably, and available conveniently, why will any consumer not buy your product? It's very logical and it's rational in terms of expecting that kind of a thing to happen. And that paradigm, which I call as the first paradigm of marketing, persisted for the longest period of time. And somewhere down the line, psychologists, sociologists have started getting slightly into the field of marketing. In other words, marketers discovered the joys of psychology, anthropology, sociology, and things like that. And they said, look, wait a minute. If consumers are buying the best product, why are the best products not the market leaders? Are we getting the equation right or wrong? And when you look at the whole hypothesis for the first paradigm, it is all about consumers are rational. You give them good reason, and they act logically. But psychology says it's anything but. People are full of feelings, they're full of emotions, and that's what drives their purchase decisions. And when this has come in, that was the advent of paradigm 2. And paradigm 2 is all about emotions, feelings, and tapping into the psychology and sociology of the audiences or of the people, of the consumers and prospects. When you get into paradigm 2, how do you generate those feelings and emotions? Two technologies helped us, the marketers, really rouse the positive emotions and feelings amongst people. And that is through the medium of radio and the medium of television. That happened, of course, at different times in the history. But those two have really elevated the capabilities of marketers to tell stories in such a compelling fashion that it changed the game for marketing in a big way. That was probably the golden era of marketing. Then, in the mid-1990s, something fascinating happened. Two technologies came about. One was the World Wide Web, i.e. the internet, which changed people's lives totally. And as a result, marketing has changed. The marketing practices have changed. Likewise, the advent of data analytics in a commercial context came about in a big way in the mid-1990s. The combination of these two technologies pushed marketing from the second paradigm to the third paradigm. So the third paradigm saw the entire evolution of digital marketing, data-driven marketing, precision marketing, measurement of return on investment in a fairly credible, reliable fashion. Then in 2007, two more big technologies came along. One was the launch of iPhone, which totally altered the space of mobile connectivity. So these are mobile connected devices that are there. You wake up in the morning with that device. Throughout the day, you're looking at it thousands of times, and you're going to bed with it. And God forbidding, if you are getting up in the middle of the bed, you have to take a look at this. Right? That's how compulsively addictive it has become, the mobile devices. And the second interesting fact around that same thing is social media. That was the year, 2007, when Facebook had actually scaled. Between social media and the connected mobile devices, our lives have totally changed, and marketing moved to its fourth paradigm. So we have mobile marketing, you have social media marketing, you have influencer marketing, you have location-based marketing. A whole bunch of new ways of doing marketing started happening. Today, when we stand in 2022, it's fascinating that more than 70 to 75% of all marketing dollars are actually spent in media or channels that did not exist 20 years back. That is the level of shift that we are witnessing, which is extraordinary. That's like a significant dimensional move in terms of how we think about marketing, how we visualize, how we bring things to life, how do you connect with consumers, how do you inspire them, so on and so forth. And of course, you have to persuade them to make their choices in favor of your brand. So this is the overall paradigm that we have. Now, we are at the verge of a most unprecedented level of disruption in the field of marketing. Each time, if you remember, there is a paradigm shift. There are two technologies which have been really responsible. But right now, we are at the verge of witnessing 24 technologies. Artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality, the whole metaverse that sort of everyone is talking about. You got blockchains. You have got autonomous driving cars or autonomous vehicles. You got wearables. You got Internet of Things. You got smart speakers. You got very sophisticated 3D printing that's actually just about to enter into organic 3D printing, meaning you are actually printing tissues at scale. You're printing organs going forward. You're talking about 5G telecommunications. If you look at these, each one of these technologies, 24 of them, are independently capable of disrupting in a huge way. Now imagine the confluence of these technologies when they are coming. What will it do to people's lives? Across every element and aspect of people's lives are going to change. Now, what is the task of marketing? We need to be there or ahead of where our consumers are. So how do we really go about this new paradigm, which is the fifth paradigm of marketing that we are actually at the cusp of? And we need to really be able to understand, this is what set me off on a quest to go through every single aspect of marketing and say, is this going to work tomorrow? Shockingly, and probably in some sense not surprisingly in some cases, marketing is already failing in a big way right now. And I'm not saying this just to be sensationalist. There is so much of marketing dollars which are being wasted today. It's unbelievable. Like I used to say about 20 years back, I used to work in those days with Citibank. And we used to send applications, direct mail applications to people so that they can apply for cards. Typically, if you had a 40 basis points of response rate, 0.4%, you would say this is a very successful campaign, direct mail campaign. But if you were to look at it in the right perspective, what you are saying is you feel yourself successful if 99.6% of your prospects take your application form that you have just spent money on and dump it into the trash can, even without opening, and you say, this is a successful campaign. Is that how we should be really looking at it? The same thing is true today in the context of digital media and in the context of how marketing spend is happening, and the ability or inability of folks and of companies to precisely and accurately and credibly measure the return on investment. And when I started going through this, there are three things which I said I'll capture here. The first one is in terms of a huge tsunami of the technology, right? The technology changes, which we just mentioned about. It's going to alter everything, including our capabilities. Now, if you look at things like artificial intelligence, these are not going to happen sometime tomorrow. They are already here. And many of the businesses are using, either knowingly or unknowingly, in a good way, or in a way they don't understand what is going into the black box and looking at it as an ultimate truth. We'll come to that in a minute. But technologies are going to be hugely, hugely disrupting everything we do. The second thing is data. Today, we feel that we are swimming in so much of data. Just like in the example of the credit card applications I have mentioned, in case of data, we barely use a tiny percentage of data that comes our way because we don't know how to make sense out of it at this point in time. And on the other hand, consumers are already freaking out. And rightly so. As a consumer, I would feel very offended if people are using my data in ways that I don't want them to use. Now, when I put on the marketer's hat, I have to respect the consumer and do exactly what is okay by them, what is acceptable by them. Today, the data situation is not great. A regulation is coming. You have got GDPR, you have got California's CCPA, and a whole bunch of regulations are sort of being formulated as we speak. But we haven't even seen the scratching of the surface as far as data is concerned. What's fascinating, if you look at homes today, already you'll be surprised at the number of connected devices that you have with Internet of Things, with the wearables and all these things coming along. Each one of these devices is a connected device. And each connected device collects data or is capable of collecting data. Do we know what to do with the data? Do we know how to organize the data? Do we know how to make sense out of the data? Do we know how to actually act on the data when it is still relevant for the consumer to be reacting to a stimulus from the marketer? It could be an offer, it could be a message, it could be whatever. We have absolutely no capability as an industry to do this today credibly. The concept of real-time marketing can become real, but we are nowhere near that. The capabilities are just coming upon us at such a rapid pace. Now, the question is then what do you, like for example, today if you see, I was counting the other day, if you go wake up in the morning, your alarm is connected, your time clock. You brush your teeth. Procter & Gamble has already launched connected toothbrushes, which tell you whether you are leaving out some portion of your mouth without brushing it properly, or you are actually pressing too hard, or you are just sort of daydreaming and going on brushing forever. There are so many things actually you can make out of it sensibly, but also you're intruding into the consumer's privacy big time. So how do you really get the balance? And what do you do with this data? Now, it can be fantastic if you use to redesign how the toothbrush bristles should be, knowing how people hold, where the press, et cetera, right? There can be tons of stuff that can be done using that data if only you know what to do. The other thing likewise, commodes. In the bathrooms, you got weighing scales. That's been there for quite some time, Withings and a whole bunch of companies. You got the commodes which are connected. You got showers which are connected. You've got coffee makers which are connected. You've got refrigerators which are connected. It's like unbelievable level of connectivity. And this connectivity is convenient. Of course, it opens data security, privacy, cyber security. All these good things are there that are not too far behind. But the point is there is so much of data that's going to be collected. And we did a small experiment, a bunch of us who are a little bit nerdy about data, and tried to figure out what you can actually do. And the kind of modeling that we did, it showed, my God, there is such a tremendous amount of opportunity to leverage this data relevantly to step things to the next level. incredibly. Then, the third big shift which is happening, which is cultural shifts. Just a few years back, in fact, I'm returning from a trip to Saudi Arabia, which was seen to be extremely conservative, and women did not have the kind of rights that women in the Western countries enjoy. I was blown away with the level of cultural change that's happening in the last 4 years. My own team member, my head of marketing, for example, she was not sort of covered in veil and all this, which is what I have been used to seeing 4 years, 5 years back. And when I said, oh my God, this is a huge cultural shift. If you talk about LGBTQE, if somebody even mentioned the word, they would be thinking that they are sort of embarrassed to say those things. From that kind of a thing today, good sense and humanity is appropriately prevailing, and thank God, now this is being accepted. And we have, for example, launched at Mastercard a card specifically for transgender population. And it has now been launched in 32 countries around the world. 10 years back, probably that was not really going to be very feasible. But today the world is evolving. There are cultural norms which we are shattering through. And that's, again, just the beginning, right? There's so much happening. So between technology, between data, and between these cultural shifts, marketing is not just going to be the same. That's when I started looking at every single aspect of marketing and saying what works and what does not work. So if you look at insights today, the way we get insights is by asking people, why do you like this? Why did you buy this? Are you happy with this? How happy on a scale of 0 to 5 you are? The funny thing is, science of neurology has evolved to such an extent where, number one, you don't have to ask people the questions. You can read this level of emotion and feeling depending on which part of their brain is firing up, on the one hand. So neuro insights are phenomenal on one hand. The other one is, most of the purchase decisions are feelings and emotions led, and many of them are subconscious. They're below the conscious level. So when you're asking an individual a conscious question, why do you feel or why did you do this? What they're giving you in response is a post-rationalization. It is not an understanding of the process. But we as marketers, we collect all the data, we are sitting inside a focus group and then trying to, on the other side of the mirror, and trying to figure out what the consumer is saying and so on. We need to really think through this whole thing, particularly when you have got a better understanding of the brain today, and it is advancing as we speak every single day. Insights are going to be very different. And insights don't have to be only through asking consumers. Your ability to analyze behavior in real time with all these connected devices is going to be a game changer. Advertising. I keep saying this very provocatively to my own team, saying that advertising as we know it is dead. And why do I say that? Like, for example, if I'm sitting in front of, say, YouTube, and I'm watching some videos. Being from India, I love Bollywood songs. I keep watching them. Or I am an animal lover. I keep watching animal videos, and I find it's nice. The problem is, at the end of 3 minutes, my experience is rudely interrupted by an advertisement I couldn't care less about. And I have to wait just to see when that skip now button is coming. The moment the skip now button is there, I just click on it, and then my video resumes. Now, just imagine, as marketers, we talk about giving seamless consumer experience, frictionless experience. Here I was having a frictionless, seamless experience till you, the marketer, came in and shoved an advertisement at me, which I couldn't care less about. That's not good marketing. And now, to make things worse, I get 2 videos, not even one, 2 video ads. Ad 1 of 2 and ad 2 of 2. It's so frustrating and infuriating to me as a consumer. Digital, likewise, you open any article on digital and you look at the clutter that is there. I wanted to see something which is happening in Ukraine. I click on it and I want to see that. I have to search for the content I'm looking for because it's surrounded by so many ads and so many, distractions. That's not what we should be doing to consumers. As a result of which, what happens? Two big changes. People are putting ad blockers. It's much more prevalent in Asia than it is in the United States, but 600 million people are actively using ad blockers today. And it is growing by some estimates at 30% per year. So they are saying, you marketing guys and girls, I want you to be out of my territory or perimeter. Don't come into my space. I'll put this. If I don't get some content, doesn't matter. I don't want your ads. 600 million and increasing. Then you're having people migrating to ad-free environments like you have got Amazon Prime, you got Netflix. Netflix last year, I don't know their latest number, but last year they announced that they had 200 million subscribers and watching 1 billion hours plus of ad-free content, which otherwise consumers would have been spending in an advertising environment that is declining pretty dramatically on that space. So when you look at these kind of trends that are happening around, and as a consumer, I hate these advertisements. Why would we then, as marketers, try to do that? So advertising will be reinvented completely. The need to communicate with consumers does not change. But the way we communicate and engage and connect with the consumers and engage them has to dramatically undergo a change. Loyalty, another favorite topic of mine. Interestingly, I read an article on bbc.com, and that's what set me off on this course. I saw that in that article, it said they were doing a survey or interview amongst people who were either couples or they were in a live-in relationship, either married or live-in relationship. They asked them, how many of you have cheated on your partners? The number was an astounding 70%. 70% of the people said that we cheat on our spouses or on our partners. And a further 15 have said that if they are sure they will not get caught, they don't mind straying. Now, this is not about making a value judgment. This is about understanding consumer psychology. If 85% of the people are not hardwired for loyalty in their personal lives, why would we as marketers believe that people will be loyal to our brands, which rate so low in people's hierarchy of things? Just think about it. But here we are, as an industry, collectively spend almost $1 trillion every single year behind loyalty programs. What we want is consumer stickiness, that there is no running away from it. But don't misunderstand stickiness for loyalty. If you do that, then what happens is your entire frame for ensuring repeat purchase or that stickiness or reuse will totally change. And that's what we have to strive for. So I tried to come up with a new framework of how you should look at these programs for stickiness and winning consumers on an ongoing basis. Purchase funnel. I'll just touch upon a couple of minutes. If you look at purchase funnel, you talk of, we used to be taught awareness, interest, desire, action, satisfaction, the IDAS model. Now today, the first purchase actually happens even before you are aware of what it is. Now, I have bought, for example, multiple times on Facebook. Something comes, it looks interesting, I just go and buy it. So the funnel is just getting collapsed. And therefore, every single traditional area, when I looked at it, I said, this is something which we need to reimagine, we need to reinvent, and we need to really have new frameworks to address this. And the way I look at it is, I call this as quantum marketing, a new way of approaching marketing, a new framing, right? Now, in the world of physics, what is physics? Physics is the science with which you try to understand how things work around you. And you've got Newton's laws of motion, you've got laws of gravity, electricity, magnetism. These are ways, postulations or theories with which you try to understand how things around you work, and then leverage them after that. But when humanity discovered outer space, and humanity discovered how to look inside of atoms and molecules, classical physics totally failed. And a new branch of physics came along called quantum physics. Max Planck was the guy. That today is the basis with which we understand. It has reframed everything from a wave theory, particle theory, everything has changed. And quantum physics is now the basis on which you do a lot of things as technology advances. These are even more critical. In the same way, when classical marketing is not delivering what it should be doing, and it is failing, you need a new way of marketing, and that's what I call as quantum marketing. And quantum marketing, basically, if you see, there is a healthy dose of AI that will be there throughout. It is already happening today. For example, at Mastercard, we use AI across the entire value chain, all the way from getting consumer insights in real time, getting into creation of banner ads at this point in time, in real time, doing A/B testing, doing optimization, both at the creative level as well as the channel level. All these things that are happening today. So it's not some future 4 years or 3 years down the line. It is here and now. Likewise, when we do B2B conversations, when, for example, a business is putting out an RFP, what used to take us several days, if not weeks, to create what we call as draft zero, now it takes less than 8 hours. There's a dramatic change in your whole process of how you do things when you deploy AI. And the kind of insights that you get into are incredibly powerful and very timely. Metaverse, everyone is talking about metaverse, and we'll see a lot of it happening, and I'll talk about it in a little while. Things like behavioral economics, you've got real-time actions, neuro, multisensory. There are so many things which will define this quantum marketing phase or era of quantum marketing, or the paradigm. It's going to be a totally different ballgame. And I have actually shared this in a book that I have written called Quantum Marketing, which went on to become a Wall Street Journal bestseller and being translated to 10 languages around the world. Some of the top universities in the world are now actually completely redesigning their marketing programs based on the book. And I feel very grateful for that. And I had violent discussions and fights with the professors and with the industry leaders to say, is it just a new fad buzzword kind of a thing that we are coming up, or is it something which is a fundamental paradigm shift? And I could convince many of these folks over hours and hours and days of discussions. So I feel very grateful for that. But I'll today give you a demonstration of how we are bringing some elements of quantum marketing, particularly focusing on multisensory, right? So multisensory is a very simple concept, no big deal, which is normally most of the people are blessed with 5 senses: the sense of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. 99.9% of all the marketers, we rely on 2 of those senses only, the sense of vision and the sense of sound, to be able to connect with the consumers. So the question is, why should we not try and leverage all the 5? And why should we do it? So if you look at it, it's like, each sense is a sensor. It's a recipient of, it's a method through which you receive information. Why should information be challenged channeled only through these 2 senses of sight and sound? And what we said is, let's actually look at first the sense of sight. And is it optimized? Now the beauty is, while sight or this visuals are being used forever, when you look at the structure of the brain and understand how visuals are processed, it's an eye-opener in many ways. It's a pun intended or unintended, but it's an eye-opener literally when you're seeing new things that we could not see before, thanks to, again, some of the neurology and some of the science of sound and a science of vision, and the impact of vision on the mood, on the motivation, on the behavioral aspects, the feelings and emotions, and so on. So we embarked on this journey, and we have, looked at our own scenario. Now, if you look at consumers today, on an average, they are being bombarded by anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 messages every single day, which is humanly impossible to process. So consumers learn to tune off, which means there are some colors and some visuals will cut through and then register with the consumers. Others, they just gloss over or glaze over. So we said, how are we positioned for that? Secondly, if there is so much of clutter, this is what you see on the screen here is a small subset of all the brands that Mastercard had. It takes at least about $100 million at a global level to sustain one good brand. And we don't have the luxury of having so many, and this is a small subset of the brands that we had. Plus, there is a consumer data overload. So what we said is, we will actually firstly declutter the space. Clean spaces cut through the most in consumers' minds. So what we did, we killed all the brands and we just stuck to one brand, which is Mastercard. But then when you do the study of this brand, we found out that the red, the yellow, and the Mastercard name and the two circles, these are the elements that people recognize our logo with. But the funny thing is, people said, this brand looks a little outdated. It's a little obsolete. It's a little down market. And particularly in emerging markets, credit cards, for example, are considered to be an aspirational product, and this does not reflect your aspiration and so on. So it was a funny conversation I had with our agency folks saying that, okay, look, the red and yellow circles have to remain. You cannot take them away. The name Mastercard is critical. We invested tens of billions of dollars over the decades to build that brand recognition and equity. We cannot let go of that. Now go and change things and get me a new logo. They said, what else is there to change? Because you have said everything, our hands, legs, and everything are tied up. So, but we did so much of research into the color, into the science of color. And what we did from there, we moved to this. The red and yellow circles have been preserved. Mastercard name is preserved. But the red is not the red of the previous slide, and the yellow is not the yellow of the previous slide. The level of overlap between the two circles is not the same. The name Mastercard has been converted into small text. Now, what's the big deal about it? Interestingly, colors can be optimized to different media, and we optimize these colors for digital media in a phenomenal fashion. And color, a particular shade of color of red is seen to be cheap and gross, and some shades of red are seen to be sophisticated and subtle. The same red, slight changes in the hue. That's fascinating, how the reception of these various signals go into the mind. And we tweaked and tweaked and tweaked, and it was actually a 2-year exercise that we had done. And that's how long it took us, because we were learning. There was no manuals or playbooks ready for us to play with. And then we said, there is another interesting thing. People recognize things more by the symbols as opposed to words. Words is the rational brain. Symbols is the primal brain, so one is cognitive, one is primal. Or if you go to the other kind of representation, one is system 1 thinking, the other one is system 2. So we said we have to go to system 1 and then focus on the visuals. So what we did, we killed the word Mastercard, and then this is our logo. The funny thing is, when you have this, the recognition of our brand has not dropped an iota. At the time when we went in, 84% of all the people in the world knew that this was a Mastercard logo, even without the word Mastercard. Why is it important? When you go to small screens like this, where there are 4 brands which are sharing the space, you want to stand out. And the colors, most of the payment brands you will notice are blue. We are a little bit on the other side, which is we are on red and yellow. So we stand out by virtue of our color. But equally, when you take out the name Mastercard, space is freed up, we expand the size of our logo within the allotted space that we have. That makes the logo look disproportionately bigger. That's an optical illusion, but it works brilliantly. So we had done that, and this is what we have done. Then what we tried to do is to get into something what we call design system. Everywhere you see that whatever we are creating, there are those circles. There are those shades of red or yellow which are always there in the background. It constantly keeps reinforcing the brand and the brand identity in a terrific way. So this was hard. There are not too many brands which can really go all symbol, but we have been fortunate that we have been able to get to that place, though it has taken us time. It's been very successful for us. And I'll tell you why it is successful a little later, but just imagine, a few years back, we were at number 87 in terms of the top 100 brands. Today, we are at number 10. So our rankings have started climbing up. Our brand valuation has started climbing up. And in the United States, we are at number 8. So we are marching forward and wish we had the flattering budgets, which typically make those kind of moves. We don't have. But we are really able to move because we got the science of this vision or in the multisensory extremely clearly understood. I'll just move to the second sense, which is the sense of sound. Now, the sense of sound, it's another fascinating one, right? So what happens is jingles have been around since I was a child. Jingles are nothing new. And I remember them very, very strongly even after so many years. But what we said is, sound is not just jingles or music. Companies like Intel have done a brilliant job with their mnemonic sonic signature at the end of their ads. British Airways, McDonald's, NBC, they have all done fantastic tunes. But what we found is, unlike in a physical, visual logo design, there is no sonic identity. Why is sonic identity important? When you have the smart speakers which are coming, Internet of Things and wearables, you need to be registering your presence there. So when you say, hey, Alexa, buy something for me or do something, there is no visual real estate to showcase your brand. And therefore, can we actually get our sound there? So that's what we actually wanted to do. And I see some top 2 questions coming up here. If you can just go back to the slides, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. So what we did is we created a complete architecture around how sonic branding is done. It has got 10 layers. We have revealed 3 layers so far, which in itself has been fantastic. And we created some kind of a guideline for our countries to follow. And I'll just share with you what we call as our sonic DNA. Just listen to this.
Mastercard set out on a journey to create a truly holistic, flexible, and future-proof sonic identity. The foundation is a multifaceted sonic DNA that combines unique melodies, riffs, chord progressions, and vocalization. Let's listen to the individual elements. The Mastercard sonic DNA is built around core brand melodies that make the brand uniquely recognizable. Brand riffs function as the connecting tissue for the elements of the DNA. The brand chords provide additional layers to enrich compositions. And finally, the brand vocalization that adds a relatable human element to the DNA. Together, these ingredients make up the sonic DNA of Mastercard.
What you heard in the end is our sonic signature. And we have got a melody which is 30 seconds long, which goes into all our audio environment, whether it is in videos, advertisements, events, sponsorships, call it whatever. Sonic signature ends every single one of our ads or videos with that, what you have just heard. And then we have got one layer. The third layer which we have released is what we call as our acceptance sound. Each time you use your Mastercard at a point of sale or on your mobile device, when the transaction goes through successfully, you want to listen to a confirmation that your transaction has gone through. That's a small point of anxiety for people. So we just tapped it there. So now, when your transaction goes through, you hear the sound. Now, it is a very heavy lifting because there are so many merchants around the world, there are so many devices around the world. So we set out at a particular target, and I am very delighted and pleased that in a short time of less than 2 years, we are now at more than 220 million points of interaction with our sonic signature. We still have got a long way to go, but our sonic acceptance sound, but it's going in the very right direction. To get this sonic melody more recognizable and associated with Mastercard and attributed to Mastercard, we started doing something very unusual. We have started creating music. And we were actually supposed to release the album, but we didn't want to be tone deaf and release an album now when things are happening in the world, where people are suffering and losing their livelihoods in a big time. So we just delayed the launch, but I just want to play a small preview for you all So we created, for example, a song. It's in English first. Just listen to this.
Hey, get it, get it, get it. I love what you bring. You like streaming water plank. Put yourself beside me, come and drench me with your rain. I'm a car.
The melody subtly flows through the song. It doesn't sound like a corporate anthem. If it sounds, you'll throw up. But this is, and each song is very different. Just to give you a demonstration, I'll play for you something in Arabic. And I'll give you a French Algerian.
Oh, je t'aime mon bébé. Je توحشتك بزاف زينة. Oh, je t'aime mon bébé. Oh oui, beaucoup d'amour. Nina. Oh, je t'aime mon bébé.
The challenge here is to make it interesting to the consumers, to give the common thread with the Mastercard, but be divergent enough so that there is variety, there is no boredom, and there is enough amount of excitement on an ongoing basis. We released our song. A first full song was released in Latin America. Just listen to this. I guess I have to click again? Probably.
A ti aunque no sea verde, ni un jangueo está que se pierde. No le importa lo que diga la gente, baila sola como una serpiente. Sus amigas dicen que es rara, porque va sola la disco no llama, nunca la ve cayendo en la baja. Muévelo,
Que la presente, despeja la mente en la pista, un lugar seguro, ve y baila lo que sientes. Ella es una dance freak, como ella se mueve, ella es una dance freak. Baila como una rebelde, ella es una dance freak. Corazón le duele.
I'll just stop it there. The interesting thing is this song, which we released recently in Latin America, has become #1 song on the charts in 12 countries across Latin America. So just think about for a minute, a Mastercard song topping the charts in 12 countries, which is not just a cheap thrill, but there is a functional benefit to the brand in a big way. I'll move on to the third sense, which is the sense of taste. The video is very self-explanatory. Take a listen.
Food is how we connect with each other, share our stories, and explore our world. How many times has a great meal become the start of something priceless? Culinary is the leading driver of travel spend and is the #1 passion point for female consumers. So our efforts in this space are extraordinary. We've created hundreds of priceless tables worldwide. Each one has been unique. All have been unforgettable. Through Priceless.com, we invite our cardholders on epic Epicurean adventures. Our culinary journey continues with Mastercard Bistro, an immersive, interactive, first-of-its-kind experience reaching affluent travelers at Rome International. And partnering with Le Fooding and Michelin to shine a light on new, up-and-coming restaurants. And no feast for the senses is complete without something sweet. Priceless by La Durée, an edible work of art that fuses 2 original flavors, the taste of passion and the taste of optimism, to stimulate your senses and inspire you to start something priceless.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We opened 2 more new restaurants, one in Mexico City and one in São Paulo in Brazil. And I'm told by my team that the Mexico one, for example, is sold out already for the first 7 months. And that's really phenomenal kind of a response that we are getting. So the whole idea is how do you immerse consumers with a Mastercard experience or with Mastercard environment and ambience and reach them through their sense of taste as the anchor, but the other senses as well being tapped into. I'll go to the 4th sense, which is the sense of smell. Take a listen. So in fact, when I talk about this, it's also interesting. We have been following this whole approach of gender parity and equality, et cetera. One of the industries where there is a phenomenal, unfortunate gender imbalance is fragrances. Most of the fragrances are created by men. So we said, aren't there any good female or women fragrance developers or perfumers? We found two extraordinary women. These two went, they took the challenge, they created fragrances which can stand toe-to-toe and ahead of some of the top-notch fragrances in the world. We created, take a look at the video and I'll tell you why this makes sense. That's the name of our fragrance. Right, now these fragrances, why do we want to do it? Interesting associations between a pleasant smell and a great brand. And also to make an otherwise intangible brand tangible. So for example, one of the top departmental stores in the world is in Milan, Italy. It's called Renishanti. And pre-Christmas, which is the busiest period, they have done the research and they decided to stock these fragrances. They just got sold out like that. The key thing is we are trying to get and manifest the brand across multiple senses and connect with consumers in a way that is relevant and meaningful, but may not be immediately obvious to a third-party person. But there is a method in the madness. The last one I'll show you is how we bring touch to life. That's the fifth and last sense. And this is something which we feel particularly meaningful. And take a look at this.
Find a seat. Good girl.
I was born legally blind.
For millions of visually impaired people, paying with a card can be a challenge.
Credit cards used to have raised numbers, and now they're unfortunately losing that tactileness.
Which one is my credit card? Now I have to get somebody else to go through my cards to pick out this one.
I've been in situations where all of the store clerks are just standing in a circle waiting for me to figure out where my card is.
It can be exhausting.
But what if cards could be identified by touch?
Oh, wow.
This is wonderful.
Introducing Touch Card by Mastercard. 3 distinctly shaped notches help people tell the difference.
Okay, we have an indent here.
It's like got notches. All 3 of them have notches.
Yeah, I'll be able to tell my cards apart.
Developed in partnership with IDEMIA, Visions, and the Royal National Institute of Blind People.
This touch card is going to change my whole approach to the way I shop.
Just little things like that can go a long way as far as bringing independence to a blind person.
Inclusive by design, and a step forward for the entire industry. Because a world designed for all of us is priceless.
Just a little notch is huge progress.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is one of the most meaningful projects that we have worked on and brought. An extremely simple solution, but it is not simplistic. But so easy for the consumer, so depending on the shape of the notch and where the notch is, you can orientate the card, the front and the back, the top and the bottom. And depending on the shape of the notch, you know what type of a card it is. And if there is a notch, it is Mastercard. But what we have decided also to do is to make this standard available for across the industry, which means our competitors can go ahead and use this. While we have a patent, we are letting them use this. So we want it to be really something in service of blind people as opposed to a market share advantage for Mastercard. So this is something which we feel very good about. And like I said, we have been very fortunate to have some of the terrific organizations we worked with, and we have brought it to life, and it's just about to get into the space. We have developed a new ad campaign, which is just coming out, and I thought I'll share it with you. It's about, I think, 90 seconds or so. Just take a look at this.
This commercial was designed with audio description for people who are blind or partially sighted, so more people can experience it. A red-haired woman holds a white cane and feels her way down apartment steps. She strolls past a man scrubbing his vintage sports car.
Love the music, Rick.
Good morning, Marjorie.
Good morning.
Marjorie tilts her head. What's that sound? A shopping cart?
Hey, Marjorie.
It's her friend on a skateboard.
Hey, Marcus.
Nearby, kids play soccer. Marjorie steps into a tiny cafe.
Hey, Marjorie. Hi, Mayuki. Vanilla latte, please. Okay, $4.50.
Someone shuffles impatiently behind her. Marjorie isn't flustered. All cards used to feel the same, but touch cards from Mastercard have distinct notches for debit, credit, and prepaid. She feels a half hexagon, a credit card. She taps a terminal and takes her latte.
Thank you.
She steps outside and strides away from us. Touch cards appear, each with a distinct notch. Introducing Touch Card by Mastercard, because a world designed for all of us is priceless. The word priceless comes up next to the Mastercard logo.
Right? Thank you. This is something which, it's very interesting that as marketers, we don't pay attention to all the segments, and we show advertisements, and particularly we felt if you are talking about a touch card, and if blind people to whom this product is mainly targeted to don't even know or can't even see the ad, how else do we break through? And this was one thing which the agency folks have come up with, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think from my perspective, the way I see it is this is the most exciting time for marketing. What we used to dream several decades back or even now as to if only I had it, what I could do as a marketer, actually all those things are going to be real today, and it's going to be such a game changer. And when technology, data, et cetera, these advance, technology is easy to be replicated. Even with patents in place, it's easy to be replicated. When technology advances, the competing field becomes extremely level. When competing field is extremely level and highly democratized that a small company can effectively fight against a large company, you need marketing to differentiate, to stand out, to win consistently. So I feel very, very excited for marketing as a function in total, and for our industry in total, and so thrilled about it. So this is to me really the most exciting period. And what I have done, this is a little bit of a plug for myself, which is in terms of the book that I have written. 9 languages are there, 4 have already been published, 10 languages actually, they're coming down the pike. And as I said, it's become a Wall Street Journal bestseller. Very, very happy about it. If anyone of you can read it, that'll be great. And if anyone cannot afford it, I'll be happy to send a free copy to them. Just let me know. DM me on LinkedIn or on Twitter. I'm very keen that folks read it. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, you can reach out to me through any of these means that are there on the screen. So with that, folks, I would like to take a few questions, and I believe they're supposed to appear on my screen here. So if you can please flash the questions. Do we have any questions? I saw 2 before in the middle. Thank you. I see the questions. Now it says, do you think that all brands can benefit from using all the sensors for marketing, even the small ones with limited budgets? I would say that yes, emphatically. You can reach out through all the 5 senses. You need to be innovative. You need to be relevant. You need to connect the dots. It's not just putting out things there in all the 5 senses. There has to be a common thread. It needs immense amount of thinking. The answer is yes, you can do it. Secondly, with small budgets, yes. Many times we don't try things out because we think it is expensive, but it is not. Plus, you don't have to do it yourself. You can always do it in partnership. The future of marketing is not just a solo marketing by your brand, by your company against the rest of the world, but actually you can have coalitions or cooperatives of marketing which are going to be emerging. And therefore, I say that small companies absolutely can do multisensory marketing. The other question, how much of ideas and implementation was in-house versus agency work? I would say probably more than 70 to 75% of the work that we have done was through the agencies, through the partners, like we said, IDEMIA and Visions and so on. And I would say 1/4 of it was probably us, because whatever we are creating, we had to come back to our own business and connect the dots. We are not doing marketing for marketing's sake. We're doing marketing to build the brand. We're doing marketing to drive the business. We're doing marketing to build a competitive advantage. So we have to be doing a ton of stuff, at least in terms of the connecting, and also be able to see what ideas are relevant, what ideas are not. And in a brainstorming kind of a situation, it is a lot of to and fro between you and the agencies. To me, honestly, I think I have long back given up the idea of agency being there as a vendor and you as a company being here. You order them to do stuff and they serve up to you and you decide it's good or bad. That's so old world and so obsolete. The way it is, an agency is just an integral part of your team. They have the same accountability as you, and they have to be part of your strategy sessions, your meetings. That's how we do it. So I would, while I answered the question, I would still say that this is one unified effort. The next question is, I think it is Jonas London. Do you see data-driven sensorial marketing through immersive technologies as a future for Mastercard? 100% yes. And we are already laying foundations like you have seen. We are working on other aspects that are going to come down the pike, so it's a nonstop, march forward into the fifth paradigm, leveraging the concepts and principles and frameworks of quantum marketing. So I guess probably we are at the end of the time. Thank you very much for your attention, and again, feel free to reach out to me. Much appreciated. Thank you.